It was late spring, and the mountains were alive with the hum of melting streams and blooming wildflowers. I was hiking a narrow trail, my boots crunching on gravel, when a sound stopped me dead, a low, guttural growl, weak but piercing, echoing off the cliffs. My heart raced. I'm a vet, barely a year out of school, sent to this remote mountain town for practice. I'd seen injured dogs, maybe a cow or two, but this was different. I followed the sound, my breath shallow, until I saw it, a snow leopard, sprawled in a gully, its silver fur matted with blood. A rusted trap clamped its hind leg, the metal teeth sunk deep, its eyes, pale and fierce, locked onto mine, and I froze. This wasn't just an animal. It was a survivor, fighting to hold on. I dropped my pack, hands shaking as I knelt beside it. The leopard hissed, weak but defiant, its body trembling. Blood pooled beneath its leg, staining the rocks. I had to act fast. My training kicked in, but my mind screamed doubts. You're not ready for this, Jake. You'll screw it up. I pulled a bandage from my kit, wrapping it tight to slow the bleeding. The leopard flinched, its claws twitching, but it didn't strike. Maybe it knew I was trying to help. Or maybe it was just too weak to fight. I couldn't leave it here. The nearest clinic was miles away, and night was coming. There was an old cabin nearby, abandoned half a mile down the trail. I'd seen it on my hikes, its roof sagging but sturdy enough. I had to get the leopard there. I grabbed my jacket, slid it under its body, and lifted. It was heavy, maybe 100 pounds, and every step felt like a gamble. The leopard's breathing was shallow, its head lolling against my arm. My legs burned as I stumbled down the path, sweat stinging my eyes. The cabin came into view just as the sun dipped behind the peaks. Inside, I laid the leopard on a dusty table, its surface cracked from years of neglect. The place smelled of mold and pine. I lit a lantern, my hands still shaking, and got to work. The trap was old, probably set for smaller game, but it had done its damage. I pried it open, wincing as the leopard let out a sharp yowl. Blood seeped again, and I pressed more bandages against the wound, muttering to myself, "Come on, Jake, don't let it die." I cleaned the gash with water from my canteen, then stitched it as best I could with the suture kit I always carried. The leopard's eyes stayed on me, unblinking, like it was judging every move. By the time I finished, it was dark outside. I sat back, exhausted, my hands smeared with blood. The leopard was stable, but barely. I needed supplies, antibiotics, proper bandages, maybe a sedative. That meant going to town, and that's when reality hit. This wasn't just about saving an animal. Snow leopards were rare here, almost mythical. The locals, mostly farmers, saw them as threats, killers of livestock. I'd heard them talk at the diner, their voices bitter. One less predator, one less problem. If they found out I was hiding a leopard, they'd lose it. I stepped outside to clear my head, the night air sharp against my skin. That's when I heard voices, low, angry, coming from the trail. I ducked behind the cabin, heart pounding. Two men, their flashlight beams cutting through the dark. I caught fragments of their words. Can't let it live, dangerous, finish the job. They were close, too close. I held my breath until their lights faded, their boots crunching away. When I was sure they were gone, I went back inside, my stomach twisting. The leopard was still there, its chest rising and falling. I sat beside it, trying to process what I'd heard. Those men weren't just locals. They knew about the leopard. I looked at the trap again, its rusted edges glinting in the lantern light. It wasn't some forgotten relic. Someone had set it on purpose. And as I scanned the floor, I saw something that made my blood run cold. Fresh boot prints in the dust, leading right to where I'd found the leopard. Someone had left it to die, and they weren't done yet. The next morning, I woke up slumped against the cabin wall, my neck stiff and my hands still stained with blood. The lantern had burned out, and faint sunlight crept through the cracked windows. The snow leopard lay on the table, its chest rising slowly. I named him Sirius, after the brightest star, because even half dead, he had this fierce glow in his eyes. But he was weak, too weak, and I knew the stitches I'd done last night weren't enough. He needed antibiotics, maybe fluids, and I had nothing but a half-empty first aid kit. I had to make this cabin a clinic. Fast. I started by clearing the dust and debris, dragging broken chairs outside, and scrubbing the table with water from my canteen. Sirius watched me, his pale eyes tracking every move. His breathing was steadier, but his wounded leg twitched, and I could tell he was in pain. I tore strips from an old blanket to make fresh bandages, wrapping them carefully around the gash. "You're gonna make it," I whispered, more to myself than to him. But doubt gnawed at me. What if infection set in? What if those men from last night came back? I was rigging a makeshift for drip with a water bottle when I heard boots crunching outside. My stomach dropped. I peeked through a gap in the wall and saw Tom, a local farmer I'd met at the diner. He was stocky, with a weathered face and a scowl that could curdle milk. He banged on the door. "Jake, open up. I know you're in there with that damn cat." I hesitated, then opened the door just enough to face him. "Tom, it's not what you think. I'm just trying to save it." "Save it?" He spat on the ground. "That thing's a killer. It'll take my goats, my neighbor's sheep. You city types don't get it." His voice was loud, and I saw a few other locals behind him, their faces hard. I tried to stay calm. "It's hurt, Tom. It's not hunting anything." But he wasn't listening. "You got till tomorrow to get rid of it, or we will." He turned and stomped off, the others following. My hands shook as I shut the door. I couldn't fight the whole town. I was still reeling when someone knocked again, softer this time. I opened the door, ready to snap, but it was a woman maybe my age, with dark hair and a nervous smile. "I'm Emily," she said. "I teach at the school. I heard about the leopard. I brought this." She held up a bag with bandages, antiseptic, and a few vials of antibiotics. I stared, stunned. "Why are you helping me?" She shrugged. "I've seen what fear does to people here. That animal deserves a chance." I let her in, and we got to work, cleaning Sirius's wound and setting up the antibiotics. Emily moved fast, like she'd done this before, and I felt a flicker of hope. As we worked, she told me about the town. Folks like Tom lost livestock to predators years ago. They don't trust leopards or outsiders. I nodded, thinking about the boot prints I'd seen. "Emily," I said, "someone set that trap on purpose. I heard men last night talking about finishing the job." Her face tightened. "There's been talk of poachers in these mountains. They take pelts, sometimes worse. If they're involved, you're in over your head." I swallowed hard, looking at Sirius. I was already in too deep. We finished bandaging him, and Emily left to avoid suspicion. I sat by Sirius, watching his chest rise and fall. His eyes met mine, and for a moment I felt like he understood me. "I'm not giving up on you," I said, my voice cracking. But the cabin was cold, and my supplies were low. I'd need to get to town for more, and that meant leaving Sirius alone. I was planning my trip when I noticed his breathing change, short, ragged gasps. I checked his pulse, my heart racing. It was weak, too weak. Sirius's eyes fluttered, then closed. He'd lost consciousness, and I had no idea if he'd wake up. Sirius was slipping away, and I was powerless to stop it. It was 2 days since he'd collapsed, his breathing shallow and his body fever hot. The antibiotics Emily brought were barely keeping him alive, and the wound on his leg was swollen, a sure sign of infection. I hadn't slept, my eyes burning as I checked his pulse every hour, willing him to hold on. The cabin smelled of antiseptic and damp wood, and the late spring air outside was heavy with the threat of rain. I sat by Sirius, his silver fur dull under the lantern's glow, and whispered, "You're tougher than this, buddy. Don't give up." But I was scared. Scared I'd lose him. Scared I wasn't over my head. Emily came by at dawn, her face pale as she saw Sirius. "He's worse, isn't he?" she asked, setting down a thermos of coffee. I nodded, my throat tight. "I need stronger antibiotics, maybe 4 fluids. There's a pharmacy in town, but it's a 3-hour hike." She hesitated. "Jake," people are talking. "Tom's stirring them up. If you leave, they might come here." I looked at Sirius, his eyes half open, and made up my mind. "I have to try. Can you stay with him?" She agreed, though I saw fear in her eyes. Before I left, Emily grabbed my arm. There's something else. Those poachers I mentioned, I heard they've been selling pelts across the border. If they set that trap, they won't want Sirius found. My stomach churned. Poachers explained the boot prints, the voices I'd heard. I told her to lock the door and left, my pack heavy with empty hope. The trail to town was muddy, the stream swollen from spring melt. I moved fast, my boots slipping, my mind racing. I thought of Henry, my mentor, the only vet in town. He'd taken me under his wing, gruff but kind, teaching me how to stay calm under pressure. I hadn't seen him since I found Sirius. Too consumed to check in. Guilt gnawed at me, but I pushed it down. Sirius needed me now. In town, the pharmacy was quiet. I grabbed what I could, cefazolin, saline, syringes, using cash to avoid questions. As I packed my bag, my phone buzzed. It was a text from a nurse at the clinic. Call me. Urgent. My heart sank. I dialed, and her voice was shaky. Jake, it's Henry. He was driving to a farm call last night, and his truck went off the road. He's in the hospital, critical. I froze. Was it last night? I asked. She hesitated. Yeah, you were supposed to go with him, but you didn't show. The words hit like a punch. Henry had gone alone because I was with Sirius. If I'd been there, maybe I could have helped. Maybe he wouldn't be fighting for his life. I stumbled back to the trail, the supplies heavy in my pack, my mind heavier. Henry's accident was on me. I'd chosen Sirius over my duty, over the man who trusted me. Tears stung my eyes, but I kept moving, the mountains blurring around me. By the time I reached the cabin, dusk was settling, the air cold and damp. Emily opened the door, her face tense. He's still breathing, but barely. I rushed to Sirius, starting the new antibiotics, my hand shaking. You're going to make it, I said, but my voice cracked. As I worked, I noticed something off. The cabin door's lock was scratched. The wood splintered like someone had tried to force it open. Emily, did anyone come by? She shook her head, but her eyes darted to the door. I checked the windows, the floor, my pulse racing. There were fresh scuff marks in the dust. Too big to be ours. Someone had been here or tried to be. I told Emily to go home. It wasn't safe. She protested, but I insisted. After she left, I sat by Sirius, exhaustion crashing over me. I reached into my jacket for my phone, and my fingers brushed something else, a folded scrap of paper, slipped into my pocket. I opened it, my blood running cold. Scrawled in jagged letters were the words, "Let it die, or you will." The threat was clear, and it wasn't from Tom or the locals. Someone else was watching, someone who knew exactly what I was doing. A week had passed since I found that note, and Sirius was finally showing signs of life. His fever broke, and he lifted his head, his pale eyes sharp again. I'd spent every day by his side, changing bandages, adjusting the fore drip, whispering encouragement. You're a fighter, Sirius. I'd say, my voice hoarse from exhaustion. The cabin was my world now. Its creaking walls, the smell of antiseptic, the hum of spring outside. But the weight of that note, "Let it die, or you will," never left me. I kept it crumpled in my pocket, a reminder of the eyes watching from the shadows. That morning, Emily arrived, her face drawn. "Jake," I heard from the hospital. "Henry didn't make it. He passed last night." The words hit like a blade. I sank onto a crate, my breath gone. Henry, the man who'd taught me everything, who trusted me, was dead because I wasn't there, because I chose Sirius. Guilt clawed at me, sharp and relentless. I should have gone with him, I muttered. Emily touched my arm. You couldn't have known. But I did know. I'd picked a leopard over my mentor, and now he was gone. I buried my face in my hands. But Emily's voice cut through. There's more, Jake. My brother, Matt, he's mixed up with some bad people. I think he's tied to the poachers. I looked up, stunned. Your brother? She nodded, eyes wet. He's been acting strange, disappearing at night. I heard him talking about a leopard once, like it was a job. I didn't want to believe it. But after what you said about the trap, I felt a chill. If Matt was involved, the threat wasn't just from strangers. It was closer than I'd thought. I was still reeling when boots crunched outside. Tom burst in, his face red with anger. "You still got that damn cat? I told you to get rid of it." I stood, blocking his view of Sirius. "Tom, back off. He's not hurting anyone." Tom laughed, bitter. "You don't get it. Kid, that leopard's no wild animal. It was raised by poachers, trained to hunt for them. They lost it, and now you're messing with their business." My blood ran cold. "Sirius, a poacher's tool?" I glanced at him, his silver fur glinting, and saw only a survivor, not a weapon. "You're wrong," I said, but doubt crept in. Tom leaned closer. "You think you're a hero? People are watching you. Get smart, or you'll end up like your friend Henry." He stormed out, leaving me shaken. His words about Henry cut deep, but the truth about Sirius was worse. If he belonged to poachers, keeping him here was a death sentence. For him, maybe for me. I looked at Sirius, his eyes locked on mine, and made a choice. He deserved freedom, not a cage or a bullet. I'd release him tonight before anyone could stop me. I spent the day preparing. I removed Sirius's bandages, checked his leg, stronger, but not perfect. Emily helped me rig a sling to carry him up the mountain, her hands steady despite her fear. We didn't talk about Matt, but the air was heavy with it. As dusk fell, we moved. Sirius slung between us, his weight heavy but his breathing calm. The trail was steep, the spring air thick with pine and mist. We reached a high ridge, a place where Sirius could vanish into the wild. I knelt beside him, my throat tight. "Go, buddy, be free." He stood, shaky but proud, and took a step, then another, his silver coat blending with the shadows. We were heading back when I saw it, a flash of movement in the trees, too deliberate to be an animal. My heart raced. "Emily, someone's here," I whispered. She froze, her eyes wide. We crouched behind a boulder, my pulse pounding. Then I saw them, two figures, rifles glinting, moving toward the ridge where Sirius had gone. They were tracking him, or us. I grabbed Emily's hand, ready to run, when a sound shattered the silence, a single, sharp gunshot echoing through the mountains. My stomach dropped. Sirius! Had they found him already? The gunshot's echo lingered in my ears as Emily and I scrambled down the ridge, our breaths sharp in the cold spring night. My heart pounded, every shadow a threat. Sirius was out there, maybe hit, maybe dying, and the men with rifles were too close. We ducked into a thicket, the pine needles scratching my arms, and I whispered, "We have to find him." Emily's eyes were wide, but she nodded. We moved low, following the trail Sirius had taken, my mind racing. I'd let him go to save him, but had I sent him straight into a bullet? After what felt like hours, I saw a glint of silver in the moonlight, a crumpled form near a stream. Sirius! I ran to him, my boots splashing in the shallow water. He was alive, his chest heaving, but blood seeped from a new wound on his shoulder, shallow but fresh. The shot had grazed him. Relief flooded me, then fear. He couldn't run, not like this. Emily caught up, gasping. "Jake, they're coming." I heard voices. I looked at Sirius, his eyes fierce despite the pain, and knew we had to move him. Now, we lifted him, his weight heavy between us, and stumbled deeper into the mountains. My arms burned, but I didn't care. We found a shallow cave, its entrance hidden by ferns, and laid Sirius inside. I bandaged his shoulder with strips from my shirt, my hands shaking. "You're going to be okay," I said, but the words fell hollow. The voices were closer now, low and urgent, their flashlight beams cutting through the trees. Emily whispered, "What do we do?" I clenched my fists. We couldn't outrun them, not with Sirius hurt. But I couldn't let them take him. I thought of Henry, his gruff voice telling me to do what's right, no matter the cost. I thought of the note, the trap, the truth about Sirius being a poacher's tool. Saving him had already cost me Henry, my career, maybe more. But giving up now? That wasn't me. I pulled out my phone, the signal weak, but enough. "Emily, I'm calling the Rangers." Her eyes widened. "Jake, they'll know you kept Sirius without a permit. You could lose everything." I swallowed hard. "I know, but it's the only way." I made the call, My voice steady as I reported poachers and an injured leopard. The ranger promised to send a team, but they were hours away. We had to hold out. I turned to Sirius, his breathing steadier now. "You're free, buddy. Just hang on." Emily and I piled branches to hide the cave's entrance, then crouched inside, the air damp and heavy. The voices grew louder, then stopped. Too close. I held my breath, Emily's hand gripping mine. A man spoke, his voice cold. "They're here somewhere. Find the cat." My stomach twisted. Matt? Was that Emily's brother? Minutes dragged like hours, but the voices faded. Maybe they'd missed us. I checked Sirius, his eyes meeting mine, and I felt a strange calm. He was a fighter like me. As dawn broke, the distant hum of a ranger's truck echoed through the mountains. I stepped outside, leaving Emily with Sirius. The rangers would find him, protect him, but they'd also ask questions. I'd face the consequences, fines, maybe worse, for keeping a protected animal. My career was likely over before it began. When the rangers arrived, I led them to the cave, but Sirius was gone. The bandages lay in the dirt, the cave empty. He'd slipped away, back into the wild. My chest ached, relief mixed with loss. Emily stood beside me, her face unreadable. "Did we do the right thing?" she asked. I didn't answer. I didn't know. The rangers found no poachers, but they took my statement, their eyes sharp. I walked away with Emily, the mountains stretching endless before us. Months later, I'm back in the city, my vet license under review. I think of Sirius every day, wondering if he's out there, running free or lying still somewhere in the snow. I think of Henry, the price I paid, and whether it was worth it. Some nights, I dream of those pale eyes, watching me from the dark. Did I save him, or just delay the inevitable? I'll never know, but I'd do it again, wouldn't I?